There is a black powder sitting in every campfire you have ever built. You rake it out of the ashes for free. You pour dirty creek water through it, and what comes out the other side has had its chlorine stripped, its pesticides pulled, and its chemical contaminants removed at rates that rival commercial filters costing $40 or more. This is not a fringe experiment. The EPA lists activated carbon as the recommended treatment for 32 categories of organic contaminants in drinking water. The ancient Egyptians documented this in 1500 BC. Sanskrit texts described charcoal filtration as early as 2000 BC. The Phoenicians charred the insides of wooden barrels to keep water fresh on voyages across the open sea 4 centuries before Christ walked the earth. Every civilization that ever needed clean water figured this out. Then a $16 billion water filter industry needed you to forget. They did not stop using charcoal because charcoal stopped working. They stopped teaching it because you cannot charge a monthly subscription fee for something that falls out of a campfire. I am Greg. Welcome to the Vault. If buried knowledge is why you are here, subscribe now and ring the bell so you never miss what we dig up. Let me take you back. The year is roughly 1500 BC, and you are standing on the banks of the Nile in ancient Egypt. A woman fills a clay vessel with river water that is brown with silt and smells of decay. She places a layer of crushed charcoal at the bottom of a second vessel, pours the muddy water over it, and waits. What drips through is clearer, the smell is gone, and the taste has changed. She does not know the word adsorption. She does not know that the surface of charcoal is covered in millions of microscopic pores that trap organic molecules on contact. She just knows her children drink this water and they do not get sick. Archaeologists found images inside Egyptian tombs showing this exact process. Containers with heated charcoal positioned alongside water storage vessels. The earliest written record we have of charcoal being used to treat water dates to Egyptian papyrus from around 1500 BC. They were using carbon filtration 3,500 years before Brita put a plastic pitcher on your counter. Now move forward to ancient India. Sanskrit texts dating to approximately 2000 BC describe multiple methods for purifying water, including boiling, sun exposure, and filtering through sand and charcoal. The Sushruta Samhita, one of the foundational texts of ancient Indian medicine, specifically outlines charcoal filtration as a water treatment method. These were not folk suggestions, they were medical prescriptions from the people who essentially invented surgery. They understood that the quality of drinking water determined whether communities thrived or collapsed, and charcoal was their primary tool. By 400 BC, the Phoenicians had taken it further. These were the greatest seafaring traders of the ancient world. Their ships sailed from modern-day Lebanon across the entire Mediterranean, carrying goods to Africa, Spain, and beyond. Their single biggest logistical problem was keeping drinking water fresh on voyages that lasted weeks. Their solution was to char the inside of their wooden storage barrels before filling them with water. The charcoal lining kept the water from going stagnant, killed odors, and prevented bacterial growth. This technique was so effective that sailors across the ancient world adopted it. Christopher Columbus used charred barrels on his voyages across the Atlantic in 1492. The practice continued on ships all the way into the 1800s. For over 2,000 years, the single most trusted method for storing clean water on long voyages was charcoal. Not UV light, not reverse osmosis, not a $300 countertop unit with a subscription filter plan. Charcoal. Now here's where it gets interesting. Modern science did not disprove ancient charcoal filtration. Modern science confirmed it. Activated carbon is just charcoal that has been heated to extremely high temperatures in a controlled environment to increase its surface area. When you heat charcoal past 900 degrees Celsius in the absence of oxygen, the internal pore structure expands dramatically. A single gram of activated carbon can have a surface area exceeding 3,000 square meters. That is roughly the size of half a football field packed into something that weighs less than a paperclip. When water passes through this material, contaminants physically bind to the carbon surface through a process called adsorption. The molecules stick to the walls of the pores and cannot pass through. The EPA considers granular activated carbon to be the best available technology for removing organic contaminants from drinking water. It removes volatile organic compounds with efficiency rates reaching 99%. It strips chlorine, pesticides, herbicides, and industrial solvents. It eliminates the trihalomethanes that form when chlorine reacts with organic matter in treated tap water, compounds that are linked to cancer risks at sustained exposure levels. A filter made from Campfire charcoal is not a perfect laboratory-grade activated carbon, but the fundamental chemistry is identical. The pores are there, the surface area is there, the adsorption is there. The Egyptians got it right in 1500 BC. The only thing that changed is who profits from packaging it. Now look at the money. The global water filtration market was valued at over $16 billion in 2024. Companies like Brita, BUR, Berkey, and Zero Water sell plastic filter pitchers for $25 to $40 and replacement cartridges for $8 to $15 every 2 months. The primary active ingredient inside those cartridges is activated carbon. You are buying charcoal in a plastic housing at a 5,000% markup and replacing it on a schedule designed to generate recurring revenue. The same charcoal you can pull from a dead campfire crushed between 2 rocks and pour water through using a cut plastic bottle and a bandana. The raw material is free. The physics is identical. The only difference is the packaging and the price tag. At camp, this changes everything. You build a fire the first night like you always do. The next morning, the coals are there. You crush them into small pieces. You take an empty bottle, cut the bottom off, stuff a piece of cloth in the neck, pour in crushed charcoal, add a layer of sand on top, and pour creek water through. What drips out is cleaner, clearer, and stripped of the organic compounds that make wild water taste like a swamp. You still want to boil it afterward to kill bacteria because charcoal does not reliably remove all microorganisms. But the chemical filtration, the part that commercial filters charge you $40 to do, you just did it for free with trash from your own fire. No cartridges to pack in, no batteries, no pump mechanism to break in your bag. The filter weighs nothing because you build it on site and leave it when you go. The knowledge did not disappear because it failed. Egyptians filtered water with charcoal 3,500 years ago. Sanskrit texts prescribed it as medicine. Phoenician sailors trusted their lives to it on open ocean voyages. Christopher Columbus carried charred barrels across the Atlantic. The EPA confirms activated carbon is the best available technology for removing organic contaminants. And a $16 billion industry needs you buying plastic cartridges instead of looking at your own campfire. The charcoal is already there. It has always been there. The science never changed. The only thing that changed is who sells it back to you. Now you know what the filter aisle does not want you to know. If this vault meant something to you, subscribe and share it. Every share is one more person the industry loses. The next vault is coming. What is inside it makes this one look like a warm-up.